came out from the Score, or at least reported by the Score, was the Colts view Anthony Richardson as their starter for the 2025 season. This is definitely I think it's gonna be a big story. I don't want to say it's gonna be the top of the stories, top of the boards in terms of offseason discussions, but I do think it's gonna be a big story about what's gonna happen with the Colts' future, and of course with Anthony Richardson as well, because this is a huge make or break season. Not trying to say the obvious there, but it is. What we've seen from Anthony Richardson so far is disappointing. You could also view it as the Colts overreaching for him, drafting him way too high, and being, kind of falling in love with or being blinded by the physical tools instead of, can he actually play? What are the intangibles? Is he going to be a good quarterback in the NFL? And so we're going to look at his stats, his contract, and so forth, and see what my thoughts on what I feel about Anthony Richardson and the Colts in the future. Now, for this one, take it with a grain of salt, because just like anything we've seen, not just in football, but in any sports, things can change pretty quickly. I mean, we just look at the Anthony Richardson this year. He was benched. It looked like Joe Flacco was going to be the starter for the remainder of the season. They said that Joe Flacco gave him the best chance to win. That lasted for 2 games. Anthony Richardson was back in the lineup. So, seeing how this team has functioned thus far, I won't be surprised if they kind of took this back not too long after the season ends with that. So I don't think it's a guarantee he is going to be a starter, but let's just go with the assumption that this is correct and he will be the starter going to next season. Now, what's very difficult about the Anthony Richardson situation, or his career at least, is he is going to be finishing pretty soon his second season. And yet he has, as of right now, today, week 17 for Sunday, he has not played a full season for the amount of games. So we look at this, he has only played 15 games in his career. What really hurt him was the injuries in 2023, and that is also another concern as well. You saw it early on his rookie season last year and into this year. Is just the injury real career he's had thus far. And that's also another problem with him as well, is he is, I don't want to compare him to RG3, but it doesn't seem like he has the awareness to protect himself. It seems like he kind of has that, a little bit of a Josh Allen in him, and Josh Allen still does it at this point, but he's done much better. Similar to Cam Newton as well, where he has the size and he thinks he can just run over everybody and nothing's going to happen to him. And thus far, it has not been the case. Can he do that? Absolutely. Is it fun to watch in terms of highlights? It is, of course, but for his health, so far, it has not panned out, and it has cost him severely, especially his rookie season, because I think he would have played a little bit better this season if he had a full year last year to get everything figured out, instead of playing 4 games, not really having that much of an experience, a small sample size, and then going into this year when many people, including myself, not to the extent of other people, but people thought he was going to have an explosive season. He was going to jump up, he was going to have a big comeback season, he was going to take a huge leap forward in his development, in his play, and it has not been the case. So look at 2023 in the 4 games, he had a 59.5 completion percentage, which is not horrible by any means. If I look at someone that is at this point was a similar type of situation with a high draft pick, definitely raw talent coming out, had the physical tools, is Josh Allen. We compare him to Josh Allen his rookie year, he had a 52.8 completion percentage. Horrible. So I think for Anthony Richardson at this point, for what people expected and the concerns with him, I think 59.5 is good. It's a good starting point to jump off from that. He's borderline 60%, which you will want that in a quarterback. I know as the league has changed now with the way it's, especially the passing game, 60% isn't good enough anymore. You have to be mid to high 60s to be great, to be considered a good passer. But I think for Anthony Richardson, 59.5 is spectacular for a starting point. He had 577 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. In the running game, he had 136 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. He did have 2 fumbles, and I believe if I read that right, can't pan over there. It looks like he lost one. Rushing fumbles lost. So in total, he had 7 total touchdowns, to 2 total turnovers. Again, I think he kind of disproved early on, got small sample size of 4 games, the narratives of horrible accuracy and the turnovers. Again, 59.5 is not great. I'm not trying to sit here and say that is the standard. But for coming out of college, I think he kind of quieted some people down with that. You saw, okay, maybe he definitely took a little bit, step forward, or was a little bit better than people expected him coming out of college. You do see that the amazing playability, the arm strength, the size, the running ability. But unfortunately, what was the biggest problem? Injuries, of course, because he only played a quarter of the season, or less than a quarter of the season. But it was a great starting point. Now in 11 games, it has drastically changed. It has completely flipped. And I think this really comes down to just teams having film and knowing how to prepare and seeing the tendencies and what he does or what he's bad at. Similar to C.J. Stroud. Not putting all that at C.J. Stroud for the struggling season they've had, because many people could point to losing his top 2 receivers. Offensive line is not good. The offensive coordinator is not good. But I think there is some blame on C.J. Stroud, and you've seen that take that step back for Stroud. And you look at the kind of flip side with Bryce Young. Early in the season, did not play well. Looked like how he was last year. He was benched. Once he came back, he's looked a lot better. You look at the stat line, the QBR, completion percentage, the pass rating. It has been much better since he's coming off the bench. After Anthony Nolan played a couple games. So you look at that, it's a flip side. Played bad to start and had a bad start early this season, and has really turned it around into the right direction of seeing, okay, this is why they picked him first overall. Anthony Richardson has been a complete opposite. In 11 games, it has dropped to 47.7 completion percentage. Absolutely horrible. This is something like we would expect Tim Tebow to do, or what he did in the NFL. Absolutely horrible. And I think a lot of times you look at the highlights, it's a lot of just deep shots. Even like the game 1 against the Texans, it was not great. I mean, if you look at game log, here we go. Texans, 9 for 19, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. It's all or nothing. It's boom or bust. He likes to take the deep shots downfield. And that's some of the good amount of the interceptions. It's just taking the deep throws down there. You look at 10 for 20, 10 for 24, 10 for 32, 11 for 28, 12 for 24. You look at that, and it's definitely worrisome. Perfectly on point what he's averaged. He had a 47.4 completion percentage week 1. We see a couple 50%, 41.7 against Miami. Houston, 31.3, 39.3 against Detroit, 44.7. So it's been the complete opposite of what he's doing. They're winning games, of course, but it's more so with Jonathan Taylor and a little bit, a little bit of everything else, as opposed to Anthony Richardson. Is he making plays? Of course, he is, but you cannot win consistently with these stats. I'm sorry, these are horrendous, and it's kind of puzzling that it's just gone in the complete opposite direction for that. So 47.7 completion percentage, over 1,800 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. What's now the biggest thing now is, so now you see the accuracy has gone down, top of injuries, of course, a little bit of the season being banged up. Now the turnovers are back up to what people thought of him coming out. 12 interceptions. The fumbles, he's lost 7. He's fumbled 7 times, he's lost 1. So now we're looking at, what is that? 13 total turnovers. For the rushing game, just 1 yard under 500, 6 touchdowns. So that is 14 total touchdowns, 13 total turnovers. Not great. You look at the passer rating. His rookie year went from 87.3 to 61.6. The QBR has been relatively the same, 45.8 in his rookie year to 46.4 this year. A bit better, but not great at all. So this is you look at this, and it's very scary to see this. Very, very scary. Especially if I'm in the perspective of a Colts fan, it is not going in the right direction at all. And that's why next year, again, not trying to state the obvious here, but it's pivotal, of course. And third year is pivotal for most quarterbacks, but especially for Anthony Richardson. He has to stay healthy. He has to play better. He has to work on his accuracy. He has to work on the turnovers. You look at his career thus far in 15 games, he has a 50.6 completion percentage, 11 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Now, he does add to the game of someone like Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, of the touchdowns, where he does have a lot of touchdowns rushing. He has 10 touchdowns in his career so far, so he has 21 total touchdowns to 15 total turnovers. Again, you want to see that much better, and you did expect this coming out of college with just how his playability, and just really, you look at his career, just the experience, to be honest with you, from going from high school to college, has not played that much in his football career for his entire life, and once again, you're seeing that as well, and it's maybe unfair for him because he hasn't played that many games. Again, thus far, only 15 games, not even a full season in the NFL right now. But he's going to have to make that huge jump like Josh Allen did in 2020 when it went from 58.6 completion to 69.2. He has to make that jump. And I'm not saying he has to be a 70 completion percentage, but it has to be at least, do what he's doing now, 63, 64%. That would be a huge jump, and he has to cut over the turnovers. I'm sorry. It has to go back to what it was in that small sample size in 2023, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. So the interceptions that he's had this year has been dumb decision making. It has to be better. Fumbles, he has to take care of. It jumped up dramatically from 2 to 7. Has to be better, because it's not going to just only cost him his job and his career in the NFL in terms of being a starter. It's going to cost the head coach's job and the rest of the staff there. The Colts and Anthony Richardson need to make that work. Once again, not trying to state the obvious here, Captain Obvious with that, but it's worrisome. Do I think Anthony Richardson can succeed in the NFL? Or do I think he is going to turn around in next year? I'm a little bit hesitant to say that, because this year has not shown that. He has gone in the completely wrong direction. I can't really say that he's in one point of his game that there is some promise, there is some hope with that. I don't see that. I'm sorry. He's still such a raw talent. Again, unfair because of the injuries and his rookie year being cut short and losing all those snaps, those games. To improve and get better, and I would like to believe if he played a full season his last year, that these stats would be much better than what it is. It's just the inexperience and the lack of playing time, and teams having some footage on him and knowing what he's doing. You look at the roster. He has enough talent to be playing much better. Jonathan Taylor, great running back. Michael Pittman, great wide receiver. Alec Pierce and Josh Allen, good wide receivers. You have A.D. Mitchell, hopefully he can progress as well and be the receiver that people hoped in the draft he can be. So you have 4 good wide receivers. Offensive line is okay, and you have an amazing running back. He does benefit, he does certainly help in the running game. As you see, if you look at the team stats, they are top 10 in rushing. Everything else is abysmal. It's mid-tier to the 20th rankings. So it's certainly pivotal. Do I think Anthony Richardson is going to pan out in next year? I hate to say this for Colts fans. I think he's going to be a tad bit better, but I don't think he's going to make that jump that people in the organization, fans, and everyone outside the Colts, fan base or organization thinks that they're hoping that he needs to make. I do unfortunately think that this will be the final year for Anthony Richardson. I don't know how long of a leash he's going to have in terms of when he starts making turnovers and injuries. As happens again at some point, I think that I won't be surprised if they kind of pulled the plug relatively quickly next year with it, especially with the injuries. I think at some point in time, it's just not worth paying the money. You look at right now, this year he's making 7.7. Next year he makes 9.2, and then his 4th year he makes 10.8. I do not expect him at all to make for the team to pick up his 5th year option. I think they will decline it and might be done with him after 2025, after his 3rd year. And I think unfortunately that's where his career is going to end. I hope not. I hope he can succeed because he has the tools. He is exciting at times. He flashes that promise. He has potential to be, if he can harness that right, like Josh Allen, he can be an elite quarterback. It might sound crazy to say because of how bad he's been, but he has that potential. He has that playmaking ability to be box office for that, to be much-watched TV. He does. He truly does. He has elite talent, but I think this just comes down to the case, once again, of teams overvaluing that aspect of it in terms of just, can the guy actually play? It's too many teams, once again, taking a huge swing and a miss on a guy that has that elite talent. I get it. You can't teach arm strength, size, speed, whatever it may be, and you undervalue it. I mean, one quick comparison is just the wide receiver position. People overvalue the 40-yard dash as opposed to, can the guy actually play? Look at someone like John Ross, who at the time did break the 40-yard record. Did absolutely nothing in the NFL. Xavier Worthy, we'll see. He's had a good rookie season, but we'll see how he does in his career. Again, I just think people overvalue that 40-yard dash in terms of, can he actually run routes? Does he have good separation? Can he catch? I think people just look at that because, again, you can't teach speed, but that should not be the end all be all in terms of drafting a receiver. I think the same way for quarterbacks too. You look at the arm strength. Yes, absolutely, you want someone with a strong arm. You don't want someone with a weak arm, especially when you have to go in cold conditions or windy conditions. When it's a must-win situation, especially in the playoffs, depending on where you're going. Like some people have concerns with Tua, but it's, again, that shouldn't be the end all be all with that. And I think unfortunately we're seeing another team once again making that mistake, overdrafting on someone with high talent, high ability, but just doesn't have what it takes to be the starter. And I think also it might reflect just the organization, how they, the staff, the coach, in terms of how they prepare them and are they doing everything that they can to make him better. And then at some point in time, that falls on Anthony Richardson. He needs to do the work, and as well as to the staff. So it's gonna be very interesting to see what happens the rest of the year. I think as right now it did say he was out, so I don't know if he is playing today or if that is a mistake. So we'll see what he does for the last 2 games, if he does even play the rest of the season, and we'll see what happens next year. Again, I don't want to hold it and say like it is for sure he is going to be a starter, because we've seen plenty of times in the league where teams make promises on players and then they quickly get moved, or they get cut, or they get whatever it may be. So don't hold on to that and think that is for certain that he is going to be a starter next year. I think that they should be a little bit wary of it, and that falls in the reflection of the coach and the staff of them evaluating him, picking him. And if it doesn't work out, I think it might cost them their jobs. Of course, might move on and try and get start once again, new head coach, new quarterback. We'll see. But again, it sucks to see that, because he is very entertaining. He is exciting. He has a big play, that big play potential. But it needs to be better. And Anthony Richardson and that team altogether, but especially Richardson, needs to step up and has to be better. He has to keep himself safe. He has to be smarter. He has to cut down the turnovers. Simple as that.